Hey, what's going on? So in today's video, I'm going to be working on the trim in my kitchen. I installed this kitchen 2 years ago and COVID hit and we just kind of like stopped doing all sorts of work on the house for some reason. I'm not really sure why. We had lots of free time, but life was crazy for all of us and I was not concerned about working on the house. So anyway, I've got the trim and we're going to start working on that today. So I'm going to show you how it's going to work. We've got over cabinet, I guess you call it over cabinet trim, and then crown molding. Then there's under cabinet trim and toe kicks. So let's take a look. All right, so I just have the trim setting up there right now, but you can see there's these boxes. They're just like kind of whatever sitting up there. And I got to cut these to size, and then they're going to get screwed in from inside the cabinet, and they're going to have a little bit of a reveal stick over all the way around. And then there's crown molding that goes on top. So the crown molding is right here. It's all packaged together, but it's just a flat molding. It's gonna sit on a 45-degree angle. So I will show you what that looks like when I unpackage it. And then for the toe kicks, there's actually a system that I've never used before, but these cabinets are all on these adjustable legs, which make it super easy to install. You just like twist these things, and when we install the cabinets, you can just like very easily adjust them. And it comes with this little system, so you mount this plate to the back of the toe kick, and then you slide this part in, and that clips onto that leg, and that's it. So we've got the cabinets here that are full, so these all have to be emptied. So Tricia's gonna start on emptying out the cabinets because I have to get a drill in here to pre-drill the holes and then get the screws in to hold that top molding in. So she's gonna work on that and I'm gonna start figuring out the pieces and getting them cut. What's kind of cool is the top pieces, they're all pre-cut and pre-finished and everything. They're all assembled on the corners, so I don't have to worry about getting them all lined up or anything. Unfortunately with the under cabinet trim, they're not pre-cut and pre-finished. They're pre-finished, but they're not pre-cut on the miters, so we're gonna have to figure that out when we get to it. But I can't do the under cabinet trim until I do the tile backsplash because it's gonna butt up to that. And it's easier to do the backsplash and then have the wood butt up to it than to have the wood butt up and then have to cut all the tile and everything to the trim. So I think just in today's video, I'm just gonna be working on the crown molding and the toe kicks, and then we'll do the backsplash and the under cabinet trim in another video. I'm going to be using a whole bunch of different tools to do this today. I'm going to try to remember to put a list of them all down in the video description with links to them. So if there's any that you're interested in that you're like, oh, that's a cool tool, I don't have that, it'll be down there. All right, so I'm ready to cut this first piece. Tricia's going to help me. And unfortunately, because it's pre-assembled, it makes it really difficult to cut. So what I had to do was attach a sacrificial piece of wood here. Just a 2x4, I screwed it in from the back here. And what that's going to do is I have to set this against the fence, and it's going to cut so that the teeth are going to blow out the backside. So if I don't have a sacrificial fence, it'll chip this all out and blow it out. So to avoid that, that's what this is for. Now, ideally, I would have cut it this way so that I was cutting into the painted surface and it blew out the backside, but I can't because it's too short. It hits the fence. That's why I'm doing it this way, which is not ideal, and it's huge, so I have to have Tricia help me hold it from behind, and I have to sit inside of this thing like this. And tip it up a little bit more. Right there, perfect. And so, as you can see here, by doing it that way, it's a lot less blowout. There's still blowout, but it's a lot better than if I didn't have it up against the block. All right, so we just got it setting up there. The way that it was pre-built, it was set to have a 1/4 inch overhang on each side. So I did a 1/4 inch overhang on the front as well. And it's gonna be a 1/4 inch there, so it's held off a 1/4 inch from that side there. The big problem right now is that the box is not built square. It actually runs in on itself. So I'll show you that. I'll pull it down and show you in a second. Basically, if it's set at a 1/4 inch here and a 1/4 inch there and a 1/4 inch there and a 1/4 inch there, it ends up dying into nothing in the back. And this ends up getting smaller on this side too. All right, so here is the issue. This is 36 5/8 here, and right here is 36 1/2. So it tapers 1/8 of an inch over 16 inches. So what I've done to correct that is I cut a board 36 5/8 that fits in here, and I'm going to push it in here, and this is going to stretch this thing out to the size that it should be. Let's see here, I'm going to set it at 15 and 15, and now it reads the same, 36 5/8, 36 5/8. And I'm going to check this for square. Alright, so that's looking better. Before they were both tapered in a lot, so let's set it back up there and see if that fixed it. Now I'm going to check with my little combination square. We got it set to a 1/4 inch already. Perfect. So that stretched it out and it made it so now it's not doing any wonky stuff. And I've set the next piece up there. So this one is going to get pulled out and stick a 1/4 inch over the edge. So it would be the same thing. We're just going to check it there, 1/4 inch on each of these. There, there, there. And then in the corner there's no trim, so I'm going to have to measure off of the cabinet. So what I'll do is I'll measure how far the cabinet is from the face of the trim. I'll open the door and I will set it to that same depth. And then that piece is actually, it's longer, it's gonna get slid in, and then that one's gonna get cut to butt up to it. So I guess we're ready to start screwing stuff in. Let's redo that last take because I had a booger. Thanks to Tricia, or else I would just post having a booger. All right, so I'm ready to start screwing in that top piece. What I'm going to be using is a countersink bit and these 1 1/4 inch cabinet screws. These cabinet screws have the little slot in them, so they pre-drill, but I still want to use a countersink bit to get them, you know, set up in there nice. This is part of a countersink set that I have by Fuller. This is a really expensive set, so I'll put a link for this down in the video description, as well as a link for like a more affordable version. Basically, all I'm going to be doing is countersinking holes up into the trim and then locking them in place. And the gap above it is not very big, so I can't get my hands in there to hold it in place. So I've got a bucket of shims, and I'm going to be getting this all set where I want it and shimming it in place just so it stays while I screw it in, and then we'll pull the shims out before we do the crown molding. I pulled those doors off because I gotta hit this in because that piece of trim is not built perfectly square that way, so it's like kind of kicking out in the top. So I have to really push against this and still keep measuring to make sure that the 1/4 inch is good and screw it in all at the same time. So I'm gonna need your help for sure.
Where do you need me?
I'm gonna have you on a ladder right there. All right, so I got this all screwed in, started pulling the shims out. Unfortunately, on this corner here, when I pulled the shims out, it lifts away, and that's because the screws are actually, you know, you get the panel and then another panel and then the screws. So the screws are like way out at the end of that board. so they're not really holding it down at the face. So the shims are gonna have to stay right there. So I'm just gonna leave them there and then cut them with the sonic grafter. I tried to cut them with a knife and they just started pulling out. So here's the sonic grafter. If you've never seen one of these multi-tool, it'll just cut them off real quick. All right, so we got a little hang up here, change of plans. The over cabinet trim is gonna die into that whatever top piece of casing for the window. And we had some differing opinions about how this was gonna be done when we originally put the window in and like designed this whole thing. I thought that the crown was gonna run across, so I made the trim run tall, and we're not gonna do that. I'm actually gonna get a piece of wood to fill in the gap and make that look all nice. So it looks like that wood is actually even taller than it is, rather than mimicking the over cabinet trim and the crown running across here. So I gotta do that. So that's gonna kind of delay things a little bit here today. I'm gonna glue the piece in, let that dry for a couple hours, and then use some wood filler to fill the crack, let that dry, fill it one more time, let that dry, sand it, and then I will be able to put the crown in. So that piece is gonna take up the rest of my day to do that, and we'll finish with the trim tomorrow, unless it's raining, because it's supposed to rain tomorrow. And then maybe we'll work on the toe kicks this afternoon in between dry time of that. So I'm gonna run to the hardware store because my glue is shot. This is all dried in there and I shook it and it was all watery, so it's, I don't want to trust it. So I'm gonna go buy some glue and I'll be right back. All right, so I got my piece in here. It's all glued in. I used some brad nails and these little blocks to hold it in place so the glue would set up. So I was able to put one nail in and kind of pull it down so it was tight. I made it as tight as I could, and it was really hard to get it in because the drywall is not a perfect 90-degree angle. After you tape it, it's kind of like whatever. So it was a lot of work to get this thing to fit in there really good without being too tight, so that I could work it in and not squeeze all the glue out at the same time. So anyway, that's why I did this. So I'm just gonna pull these off and show you this little trick here. I actually used tape on the back so that the glue didn't stick to the wood block. So this is just packaging tape. All right, then the nails that are stuck, I'm actually gonna use this little flat bar with my nail pullers, because if I just pull on the wood, it'll dent the wood. And then you can see there's a little glue residue behind where the block was. Everywhere else where there was glue, when it was wet, I used a paper towel and wet it and wiped it off. So here I just gotta scrape off as much glue as I can. Is to just cover that crack with spackling. This is Drydex. It's that pink stuff that dries white. So I'm just gonna put this on, and then when it turns white, I'm gonna put a second coat on and then sand this. And it is already 6:30, so tomorrow I'll work on the rest of the trim. I'm gonna be done after this. All right, so I got all that upper cabinet molding on. It's all screwed in. It was kind of a pain in the ass because these pre-made things were not exactly 90 degrees, so I didn't even bother showing all the messing around I had to do with that. But you can see the strip I had in there. Actually, you can't see it, which is the point. So that's good. And yeah, so we're ready for crown molding up there. But next we're gonna jump to the toe kicks rather than get into that because it's gonna rain, and I just want to set aside a whole day to do the crown molding. So I'm gonna jump into the toe kicks next, and basically we're just gonna rip those, cut them to length, and then use those clips that I showed earlier. All right, so here's the toe kick for the island. This one's black to match the black. The others are all white. So what I did is I laid it down and I marked roughly where the center of the leg was. So on this one I put 4. This is actually 3 cabinets. So there's 2 legs here and 2 legs here. So I just put it on one. I didn't need 2 clips next to each other. And then we're putting it like roughly in the middle. It really doesn't have to be exact because there's a large section of the center of that thing that you can snap this thing onto. And then Tricia used an awl, just a little sharp pointy thing to get the center of the screw in, and we use these little tiny, I think they're like 3/4, maybe 5/8 screws. Then the clips just slide on like this, bloop. And what's nice is you just eyeball the center of the line. This thing can float around in here, so it will snap itself on perfectly onto that leg when we put them all on. We'll see how this works. I don't think you're pushed in. There you go. There you go. There is the toe kick. Alright, so here's that upper crown molding all finished. Put it all up around the top. I'm actually going to make a separate video with the crown molding. So, just want to show you that. I did end up cutting that one a little short, so I had to splice it on there. And then there's the toe kicks installed. Looking pretty good. So I'm gonna make another video to do the crown molding, just dedicated video to that. So thanks for watching. If you like this, give it a thumbs up down below. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next video.